morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wavy Tunnel Pro Market Outlook. This is going to be our first video in a series that we are looking to roll out a number of them during the European market open, where I can do an analysis that will prepare you for your day. So before we start, if you could all just please take a minute to read the disclaimer. I'm not going to read the disclaimer. It's there for all of us to read and to observe and to make sure that we understand the content thereof. So what have we got on the agenda today? In the markets, you can see at 9 o'clock ISM, that's going to be important. And we will see what the outcomes of those are. It's probably still going to take a while for the events or the impact of the events that have been going on in the Middle East to, come through into prices. So we just need to be aware of that. I still think that the primary consideration to take into account here is what's going on in the Middle East, and will they, won't they? The other thing that's going to start happening this week is earnings. So for those that follow indices, there's a list of the earnings. They always start with banks first before they start getting into the individual companies. Right, let's go with the euro. I started with the daily. I just put that up just as a broad stroke so that we can see where we are and what the underlying trend is. So euro has started making an impressive move up from the lows of 95.45 and peaked out above the 120 level. The Feb I have on there was to mark the first impulse, to catch the retracements, and to make sure that we could get our target. I've talked a long time about the 90% probability of this particular area being targeted and achieved, and there it was. We're still looking to possibly extend. I don't measure the full move in the way that I observe channels until the trend line is broken, because my trend line will just link the two peaks. So the low to the high, the low to the high, and that is my trend line. Now we can go and have a look in a little bit more detail now to see what we have from a wavy tunnel perspective. And what we can see is we've had a first impulse down. So this could be the first step of a bigger correction of the move up that we've identified. So what I would say then, what I mean by that is then, if I was to measure this entire move, what are the probabilities and for this first impulse lower? And we can see that we are currently have a fill the gap trade, which would then could come a little bit lower down to the higher time frame tunnel area, but it could be setting up for another 1, 2, 3 higher, and that would then allow us to make some decisions. So we have two areas of interest. Those areas are there. You can see that the wave is trying to complete its move below the tunnel, so 116.40 area, and we've got this band of support here which is held and if that continues to hold, then we will have a retest of 116.36 and possibly higher. If we are to break lower, then I would imagine that we would come down into this zone, which is a 38.2% retracement of that move from the 0.95 area. So that was good. You can see that what I observe on these charts now is that all the relevant fib numbers coincide with previous price action, which has either supported or been the breakout points. And you can see that it's very, very evident on the chair. So it's actually on the chart, I beg your pardon. So it's actually a lovely chart to look at from a technical perspective, because all price action is now corresponding with the Fibonacci levels that we have. So makes the chart nice and clean. Right, so if we go from there and we go to the 4 hour, and let's go and have a look and see where we are now, because we remember we are talking about the first move lower. So on the 4 hour, we are interested in this move here. This move here. Because we are anticipating that this is a first leg of a move down, but only corrective for the move that we saw on the daily. What levels have we got here? So we've got that 116, call it 117 area, which is a fill the gap trade on the 4 hour chart. So we've got a level around here that we need to observe there. And we are currently bouncing around in this area and trying to find a direction. The direction will be helped and assisted by what we will see from the outcome of the problems that we are experiencing in the Middle East. You can see the moves are getting shorter, so we are starting to build up some pressure here, and we probably going to go into a little triangle here. So we will be looking for a breakout here. So above 115, let's call it just above 116, we can extend to 117. So now we've narrowed it down a little bit further. If we were to fail around this 115, 75, 80 area, a likelihood that we come back down into the previous support, and you can see that we don't have, that's a lower low than that. So this could be the first one down. We could just take out that low, complete, break this triangle, come down into previous support, and again it's just going to be a more complex consolidation. Right, hourly. So you can see, observing here, on the daily, we had a strong up move. On the 4 hour, we have this corrective move. So now going into the hourly, we are looking at this first move up from the lows where we experienced the highs of 120. So down at the 114 and a half area, we can see that we've got our first impulse higher. That would target, we talked about it on the 4 hour, 117 area. There it is, that's the target. We're currently in this zone here where it's supported at all our traditional support lines, which is the 61.8 and the one that I like, this 70 range here. So now we're going to start looking for trades, so we'll become a little bit more focused on the numbers. So we have, let's call it 115, and on the top we've got 117, which was there. But in between all of that, we have this area here, which is 116. So the market, we're currently in a strong impulse higher. This would indicate that we could correct back down to the wave and the tunnel, and then continue back up to 116. So we've narrowed it down to 115, call it 40 to 115.80. Again, a lot of this will depend on the outcomes of what people are starting to talk about with regard to the problems in the Middle East. And now this is where, because of the Easter weekend and because of what we've had and Europe's been out, we're consolidating. Are we coming lower now? Is there going to be a move to go down into the fill the gap trade that we are seeing here? We can see that there's a good strong area of support. So now we can say, right, the market now has to talk to us at this level here, 115.30. So we've got that. We've got a high in place here. So our range is 15.30, 15.60. The bungees, they have rolled over. The lower time frame ones have rolled over, and the slower moving are trying to come down to the 50% mark. That will probably coincide with a move into the gap between the wave and the tunnel, and then we will get further direction from there. I don't know what's going to happen in the markets at the moment with everything that's going on. So we just look at it from a technical perspective and see if there's any trades in there that we could potentially take. I just wanted to look here because, again, what we've talked about and how the wavy tunnel can help you and assist you. I just want to identify an area where we have moved into our trend lines, how we have got a fill the gap trade. We can see that the bungees have all migrated at the bottom, are starting to turn upwards, and now we can potentially start looking for trades. Again, when you get these very sharp moves higher, very difficult to jump in on those. I never suggest that you jump in on those. What I always do is, if you miss that first move, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. Where did we come back into? And this is what you can do. And you can see how, what are those numbers? You've also got then the wave that's at a 45-degree angle. You've got the tunnel that is turning upwards. You've got the bungees that are starting to approach and try and clear 50%. And therefore, this will then become an area of interest for you where you can potentially buy the market with an order around this area here. So 115.25, your stop is below the low, so a small risk, and your target, your initial target, and then bringing everything else into break even, is at this level here, 115.40. So that's position entry there. That's liquidation of your part of your position, and bring in your stop loss for me there to that level there. So it's now a free trade. They don't always gap up like this, like they did, and that becomes a wonderful trade. They are, but in this instant it did. What we're doing now is we can expand this because we've had this move. We're now in a corrective wave. This was our initial target. This was another breakout level. That also coincides with 61.8% retracement. So 115.40 area is an area now where you can have a look. You can see now that the wave has been turning over. It's coming down towards the tunnel. The price is going to now be in this range, and we will have to make a decision in there. What are we going to do? Is this a fill the gap that is going back to wave, and then we either going to continue, chop around, and then go back up again, or this is going to now 45 degrees. We haven't crossed the tunnel yet, but now we can start looking at price action. So I want to see a pattern similar to this up here when we come back in here. But you can use this now as your trend line, because that is just observations now for you to see if there's going to be a breakout on this trade and come into this deeper area of 115.40. So I put that on. I would like to see it extend a little bit more, because what I always want here is I'm always observant of my risk management, and I always want the smallest possible stop loss in play, because your stop has got to be above the previous swing high or previous swing low. So you want to bring that into an area where you are taking a potentially good trade for a small risk and receiving the benefits of it. So like this one here, where you had less than 10-point risk, and the trade, you don't know it at the time, but it made a good 40 basis points. That's your target for the day. You're finished, you turn your charts off, and off you go. Thanks for playing. Right, so that's the euro, and those are the levels. Let's go and have a look at sterling. Right, same thing. What have we got here? It's going to be very similar to what we saw with the euro, where we're going to, there it is. So again, first move up. What would we have done? Same thing. We would have gone, there's our first impulse. Here's our target area. So this one is playing out a little bit differently to the way euro. So our 90% probability is there, which we, for all intents and purposes, have achieved. And this is a more complex sideways corrective move, and it wants to either go back up and break above 140, or it's going to come back down into this 120 area. We currently, similar to the euro, we have a gap trade here, and so let's go and have a look. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the fib up here to see how this potentially could play out. And again, lines up very, very nicely with what I see as a breakout level. So this is going to be previous support, 120. That's a long way off for sterling. So we're going to narrow this down a little bit more, but broadly your 120, 140 is your big range. Too big. So let's go. Let's narrow that down. So with the euro, same as euro, we currently in that first corrective wave, lower, and there it is. And we can see, let's go. Now, this, we could get a run in flat if the price moves back into the gap between the wave and the tunnel. So this is an area of interest. So we're going to try and narrow our 120, 140 range down. So we've got a low now of 133.60, and our other low is going to be this area down here, which is around 130. So now our range is 130, 134, give or take. What have we got in here? We could go both ways. The bungees are having to make a decision. They don't know what to do. And what we need to do now is see what happens if the market breaks this low at 130, 150, have a look and see if there's divergence. Because as you can see here, you had continuous divergence here, even though we were coming down. Then we had a strong impulse here, so it corrected that, so that sort of took that anomaly away. Again, new low, divergence, but then again, that strong move there, strong move there. So now we want to see what happens, what does price do when it gets back to 134, and what will it do if it gets down to 130. So let's keep going. Hourly. So now we've got 130, 134. And here we can see that we in a choppy area here, we have got an first impulse higher over there. So that brings our 134 still into play, and this is 130, 135. So we've now can probably look around this 133 area, and we can look at 130. So 132, 133. So we've narrowed it down a little bit more. 132, 133. And let's go and see where the trade is in this one. So again, similar to what the euro did. Looks exactly the same. Strong move up. Long sideways move. The market has to tell us what this is. This going to be a V-shaped recovery and back into the trend line at this area up here, 132.55-ish. So now we've got 132.55, so we can have a look at this area here. Very difficult to take trades in this chop because it'll get you in there and it'll get you in there on long side, short side, and so it's not worth trading. Let's wait for something a little bit better. And so what does it mean? It means, let's have a look here. Oh, funny that, 7.7. So 132.25. So 132.25 is where I would look. This looks flaggy to me, but it could be V-shaped. So this flag could continue up in here. Then we've got to make a decision between 132.60 and 132.40. So now we've narrowed that down even more. So for me, there's nothing to do here at the moment. We can see that strong impulse up there. We can see that the market might complete back up here. It could extend further and we could repaint this royal up here. That could repaint up here, but the market will tell us what's going to happen, and then the other decision then would be what happens at 132.40. We don't guess here. We wait for the setups to come to us. The bungees are not telling us too much. Remember, Europe is on holiday today as well, so markets are thin and nasty. And I believe Mr. Trump will be talking sometime today as well, so that is going to also throw a cat amongst the pigeons. So for trades, I would look around 132.25 if you want to have a continuation and a move back up towards 133. And the other trade would be 132.60 area. Have a look to see if that completes, you get divergence, and then you're going to have a deeper correction down, and then I would target the same area. So those for me are the levels for sterling that I would be watching, and to see when the setup comes to get and find a trade. Quick look at Japanese yen. I never spend too much time in the yen because I don't think too many people trade it, but it's always interesting to see how it's playing out. And it's just basically to come back to the same point that I've been making, and that is the 160 area. Still intact. Still intact. So what are we going to do here in this market? It looks like it's going to grind higher. You see how the wave is now supporting us, telling us where this market potentially is going. This Royal could keep repainting for now, but we will have to have a look and see what happens when we get back up here. So we're in that zone, and you can see that the market is undecided, not sure what to do. Whoops. And very difficult. Right, so let's leave that one alone, and let's go to the Canadian dollar. Right. So same again, daily. What have we got on the Canadian dollar? Just trying to finding the primary trend, and you can see it's like the others. It's moved, and there we go. So we've had the strong impulse up when the US dollar was weakening, everything was strengthening against it, and then we've had the start of a correction, and then the problems in the Middle East, which have now made the market rethink this weak dollar scenario. So there's a number, 141.35. So obviously this is going to be the range. So let's call it 135, 140, 150. So that's what we got to start with. Let's go and dig a little bit deeper. So we are currently in this strong move up, and where are we? So we are correcting this first impulse lower, which is there, and we're currently in our sweet spot, which is there. So 139.75, and I can clearly see where the support is going to be, coincides with what's going on over there. So strong impulse higher, dragged everything down. You would expect that this would correct a little, so I would be looking at 138 at the moment on the downside. That coincides with everything that's going on with the tunnel, the higher time frame tunnel, and the 4. So that's a daily, that's the 4 hourly, and you could probably drill down without this getting too messy. Do that, and you can see that that coincides with a 38.2% correction of that. So I would again, so I like this area a little bit more, 137.80 area as a potential support, and I would say that our target would be somewhere in here, not close to, so 141, not near the highs. So again, so I would be looking for possible trades to go long 137.80, taking profit at 141 and reversing. Why? Because I've got a tight stop. I'm so close to the top, so I would look for setups. So now we've got 138, 141. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And again, we can see strong impulse higher. There we go. We said 138. What does that coincide with? 38.2. So now we've got this area here. So we are looking. People don't normally trade off a 1 hour. It's just there as a reference. Some lovely setups that you see here. You know, when we talk about flags and breakout trades, there's a perfect example of one where it breaks out. You leave an order to buy. Obviously, you don't do this on an hourly because there could be a lot of chop. But again, it just shows how when you've hit a point, the bungees are looking for direction. They're either going to continue along the low or they're going to be looking to snap back and have a correction. First one into the wave. Second one, I would suggest that that's around 75%. And then you not doing too much in here at the moment because the market's trying to decide. But what you have got is a first impulse higher. So when you've got a first impulse higher, you've got a low, which is around 135.20, give or take. And so when you're coming in here, you can start looking for setups. When you come in here. So let's do the 15 minutes in there with that line. Just to see if we can find that trade. It's probably not going to give us that far enough, but we can go and have a look at the 5 minutes and now I want to look at the 1 minute and I wanted to go back. It's not going to let me. So the market is now consolidating further. We've had the first move down in the 15 minute. We've had a first wave up. So we've got two things at play now. We've got the first impulse lower. We've got another first impulse higher. Here you see. So this is a good example of where I enjoy these because, let me get rid of that. Because what have we got here? We've got a first move down. So we are expecting, as long as we now stay below that high, for a move lower. The market came down, followed all our rules with Wavy Tunnel, started all the bungees moved from the high to the low. The wave crossed the tunnel, and when we had the first retracement back, what we do? We had a retracement back into the tunnel. There's our flag. Stops above there. That would have been a tricky trade, but that's 45. So you keep selling these. You're looking for setups to sell these. Continue lower. Where are we targeting? We are targeting this area here. 138.5. That's our target. We're a little way off that at the moment because we are currently, so we can do that. We know that our resistance area is in here. There it is. What I'm going to do with this one is this. Because that was our first impulse lower. Now, we've had our first impulse higher of the corrective wave. So we're going to get a 1, 2, 3. There it is. 1, 2, 3. Where did it get to? Pretty close to 2.7, 90% probability. So we've got this zone here now. So we are looking for this zone to hold. So now we've got 139.50 is where you've got to decide what to do. You're going to have a first reflection point around 139.35 area, which was, you can see, the break area. It also then was the first level of support for that first move down, up, couldn't hold it, came through. So you've got the wave and the tunnel now looking at 139.40 for a decision. So possible trade at that level. We can also see that 139.10ish. So now we've got 139.10, 139.40. And that's where we're at. And we will come to the 1 minute. So we're looking at 10.40. Nicely set up with what's going on here. We can see that. We can see that. There's your 10. There's your 40. This market's got to tell us what to do. A lot of chop in this area. Very difficult to take a trade. Everything's flattening out. Bungees need to find something to do. And that will all become more evident when the market opens today. So look at 139.40 for potential trades and look at 139.10 for potential trades. And that trend there would obviously then be a deeper pullback, or it will consolidate for a move back to 139.40. So that's that. Euro yen is always one of those crosses that are worth looking at. Let's go and have a look and see what that says to us to cover a cross pair. We've got a daily. That looks flaggy. You've got a trend line that's there. We're probably going to look to come lower in this one, down back into this zone here, 163. So that would be a nice trade. So I would suggest, and you can see previous area of congestion. Funny how it all coincides with what we're looking at. Same Fibonacci numbers, higher time frame tunnel. The market has to talk to us at this level here now. And you could probably draw a line on here, which we're going to show you is going to give you a triangle. So we can have a breakout. So if we break out here, we're going to come close to the top. What do we do near the top? This could complete. The bungees are looking for direction. What are they going to do? Are they going to flip over and come lower, or are they going to stall here and go back up? We don't know. This looks flaggy, that looks flaggy. You see you only get one impulse lower and then it corrects itself. So we've got that level there. So let's go and drill a little bit deeper. So more consolidation, more correction. This market could just grind up and grind up all the way up here. It could just continue and then, whoops, it could grind into that area there, 184.80. So this market has to talk to us as well. You have nice strong impulses and then you get chop. And you can see that we are in chop. No nice, great impulse. It tried to and then stopped. So let's drill down a little bit further. It should be 1 hour. And again, this looks flaggy in comparison. I just always look to the left and see how it behaves, because you can see here. You can see here. You can see that. Looks like that. Looks like that. So it does this, and so you want to see how the behavior. So you can see it's either stalling, going to continue higher. So the same thing, same scenario that we saw and identified earlier. So 186.25, and we've got here 182.57. So We could grind all the way back up again. Um, I would be looking for a move lower. Let's see if we can find a trade. No. um, it, strong impulse up, consolidating in this zone. So I would, there's nothing to do here. You are either looking for a move back into a previous zone of resistance and breaking. So just look to the left, and there's your number for the top, and let's find your number for the bottom. If we were to break out, it's down here, which coincides with that 61.8. So 184 to 184.40. In between, there's nothing to do. Wait to see how it reacts at these two numbers. See if there's any possibility of this. Overall, you would probably be expecting it to see if it could continue higher, but I would look for sells above 184.42. So again, that's a number you need to pay attention to, and then pay attention to the low. And so while we're in there, this is our first impulse higher, and then this is all chop. Great. Let's have a look and see what the Aussie's doing, because that sometimes is a good currency to trade. Let's go to the daily. Again, all of these will be very similar in their context, in that they've had moves from their lows to their highs, and they are now looking for continuation higher, or they are going to continue lower. We can see here that the Aussie on the daily, strong impulse up and then a lot of sideways chop. This wasn't as strong an impulse from a vertical perspective, but it was a good grind higher, and you can see in between chop. And now you can see this is starting to build. What have we got here? We've got to fill the gap trade. Are we going to, we need to break back above 70. So let's go. We've got 70 on the top, and we have got that number on the, so 66.5, 70. So let's keep digging. Let's keep digging. We've got a first impulse lower here on the 4 hour. That's a good area of support. That's our target zone plus a higher time frame. So the daily tunnel, we're chopping in between all of this. Very difficult to see where we are going to. We could, if we break above 69.70, extend into this area here, 71. So we are looking at 69.70, and if that breaks and holds, then we're going to move back into 71. If this area fails, we are going to move back to 67. So let's keep going. So 67.71 is our two new numbers. That looks like sort of 71-ish. So we've narrowed it down, 70.63, and we've got 68.30. What have we got here? Also, strong move up, down. I would probably think that there's a chance that we would move back into this 69.70 area. And then we've got to make a decision when we get there. So previous support and resistance, there it is. So that's the first point to look for, a possible sell trade between 69.70 and 70. So in that 30-point range, too wide, because that's usually what you're looking for profits. So just be mindful when we come into the 69.70 on the lower time frames, you can start looking for a trade. Otherwise, so we've got 68, 68 and a half, 69 and a half, let's call it. So let's go in here. Let's first go to the 15-minute. 69 and a half, so that coincides with this high here. There it is. And we've got a low here. 68. So what are we doing here? First impulse higher, strong move down. That would have messed people up. This is chop, there's no trades here. You could have been potentially looking with this turning over. Is there sell trades to be had? Very difficult to find. If we had fibbed this first move up here, bang. So again, market came into this 90% probability zone. So there's your top one, so 69.40, and we've got your low. We've got the wave now that's crossed the tunnel. We've got the breakout here. So here is 69. So we're 69, 69, 30. We break below 69 again. We're coming down to 69, 68.75. We break 68.75. We're coming down there. So those are your numbers. So let's go a little bit further. 5 minutes. This is extending. This is a nice zone here. So there's a possibility. At the moment, it's dangerous because nice strong impulse higher, 45-degree of the wave. We could get this fill the gap trade. So you want to watch 69.10. So 69.10, 69.40 are the two areas you want to watch for possible trades. And that will then manifest itself in a bigger move. So break above. So we hold 40 and we come down. We should come back down into the 69, 69.10 area. This all looks like it might have a little look higher. So the closer you get to 40, you can start looking for setups. They might not come because this all might reverse over. The wave might flip over. This all might come down or just roll over. We're in that 50% zone. You can see the green is above the yellow. So that needs to be, you need to be aware of that. And then off we go. So in there, 69.10, 69, 69.40 is the areas I would watch in Aussie and look for a trade. The other one, I don't know to what extent people look at gold. I'll just do gold quickly. And then I will move to people that look at futures, and I will use Ninja Trader. So this is just for currencies, or maybe I should just leave gold for the right. So that's gold. Let's just have a quick look here, because what I need to do is to get a chart on my Ninja. I'm going to do a brand new one, brand new chart, and I'm going to do gold, and I'm going to do nothing, and I'm going to do that, and there it is, gold. Don't need that on there. And then what we need to do is to do and then we need to do there, and there it is. What does gold tell us? All works the same. These are futures prices, and this is the Ninja. Again, this is just to demonstrate the strength of finding your impulses, and Jody will go into, she does a very good job on her Elliott wave. Her Elliott wave is so much better than mine. I look at it in a very simplistic way. She's a little bit more detailed and complex than me. But I look for my first impulse lower. I have a target area then, which is that area there, and then off I go. And again, I can see gold here is doing deeper retracements than normal. Again, you can see how the wave will help you and support you. One thing I do always suggest is when price pulls away too far away from the wave and the tunnel, markets are becoming too stretched, and you know that it's going to bounce. It doesn't always mean that it's going to have a sustained and like this one, but it's going to need to pull back into, because you're going to get bouts of profit taking. You're going to get all sorts of other factors at play. While we're doing this one I can do a little bit cleaner, because I've got set up. I can look at two different ones at the same time and change the colors, and it just becomes, so there's a number that I would be watching in gold, which is around just above 5,000. But what have we got here? We have got the tunnel and the wave, and we are consolidating in that area. So let's go down to the 1 hour chart and see how this breaks up. Look at the price action. This is messy price action, probably because of the holidays, and so I'm not going to spend too much time in here. And that's that. I just want to see if the contract is rolled, because that price action looks database management. Yes, I thought so. The contract is rolled in gold. That's why the price action was so 5,000, I would have a look. You can see that the market is consolidating between 46.5 and 48. So that's the narrower range. And what have we got in here? Here we've got that strong impulse down. So the market now, as long as we stay below 48.50-ish, could continue a little bit lower. Again, this will all be decided by what's going on in the Middle East. So let's go to the S&P. Let's go to the daily. And let's go and have a look and see what that's doing. And there we go. So you can see we're trying to rebound. What does that do? That looks like that there to me. That looks like that, looks like that. So this could, a bigger extension over there. So let's go from that low there to that high there. So this market is targeting 7,600. For me, that's a long, long way off. The wave has come through the tunnel. We are in a bit of a pullback. So I would look at what is going to happen at 67.60 area. The bungees are also wanting to go a little bit higher. So let's go into the 4 hour. And let's go and see what that says to us. Right, so we had this grind lower. I think the world and his brother would have thought that this move lower would have been a lot more aggressive, a lot more volatile, because of what we were potentially facing from a global perspective. But this shows you the power of the derivatives and options market that's in play, and that everybody was positioned for this. And this is why you didn't get that 10% daily move. It was over a prolonged period of time. You can see we are now grinding higher. Bungees are in no man's land. Which are we going to continue higher? Are we going to come into the 67 area and continue higher? So this market's going to have to talk to us and tell us what's going to happen. So it's building. So today we'll decide whether we go back towards 67 or we come back down to 65.5, back into the tunnel. Hourly is there. I would suggest that this move here might go to the higher time frame tunnel. There it is. So 67, 67, 30 area would be the first area of resistance for me. That's quite a way away. Support initially now will be down at the 66 area, 65, 75. So those are the numbers that I would be watching there. Let's keep going. Again, markets are slightly distorted because of the Easter holidays and all the rhetoric around the news. So 65, 66, 67. So all the round numbers I'd be watching on the S&P. 66.35 to 66.50 is your opening range. So that's where the market is going to gravitate towards to until the market opens. You can see then that if we hold this, if we break back below 66.35, we'll have a fill the gap trade. We'll probably come down to the 66.25. So I would watch 66.25 for a potential setup. If we break above 66.50, there's your 66. Let's call it 65, 66.65 area. And that would be the range. So above 66.50, I would watch 66.65. Below 66.35, I would watch 66.25. Let's go to NASDAQ, and then I will wrap it up. And this will be our first attempt at what we're doing with this and see if it works. And there we go. There's the NASDAQ. Very similar picture to what is being shown on the S&P. Again, nice sell-off. Wave is, let's call it through the tunnel. So 24,845 is a number that we need to be aware of on the top side. On the downside, 2100. Why? Higher time frame tunnel is down there, so we could chop between 24,900 and 21,700. So that's a narrower range to look at. Strong moves this morning, obviously with the mumblings of potential negotiations. here we could look at this move here. Let's have a look here quickly. So that number I always look for, which will be 25,525 to 25,675, coincides with the daily tunnel. So that's a number you need to be mindful of. We're at this junction now, 24,480. So that's the number to watch on the open, 24,480. And I would also be then, so 24 to, let's call it 24 to 24,500. Let's break it down a little bit more. Let's get rid of all of our fibs. And let's, so we've got, what have we got here? So we can see there's a breakout level which coincided with the tunnel, and then we've got another one there. So we've got that low there, and we've got that low there, and we've got that zone there. So 24,600 to 24,800 is your resistance. We now need to see what happens at 2400 and possibly something must have just come out because I can see the markets dropping. And this is the problem. You can see, you know, you drop nearly 100 basis points and retrace half of it immediately. So you've got a zone here, and I think we're in that zone now. And so there could be bounce profit from this morning. So I've narrowed it down now to 24,400. I would copy that and pull it down into there. So you've got 24,200, 24,400, and we're going to be looking for trades inside that range. Here's your problem with these markets, because you have this, something either gets said or a big order hits the market. But what did that coincide with? So let's go through this. This morning we came in and we had the market down here. What have we got on the wavy tunnel? We are around the wave at the tunnel, and we've got the wave that's protecting us. So we've moved into that. You can see the bungee was trying to go from swing high to swing low, got close to 50%, and we had a point of indecision here. This was, I think, Friday, with some of them just before non-farm payroll and all of that, and then it stopped. They come in this morning, there's a little bit of optimism, and so you can see here again, so no trades, but what you do is you use the information that you've got. So you've got the tunnel and the wave. There's your zone. This is a no trade zone. Market breaks out. Market will always come back and have a look. Sometimes it touches the top, sometimes it touches just inside. But what have you got here? You've got a wave that's starting to move to 45 degrees. Would you have got into another trade on this one? Probably not. But there was a possibility of a breakout trade there that you could have left, could have got it to break even quite easily, and off you go to the races. You see what's happened here with that strong move down all of a sudden. So maybe it wasn't anything of interest. Let's go into the 1 minute. And this is where you get, so you can see messy markets, nothing to really do here, but what they've suggested is we've got a number now. There it is. So you've got 24, there it is, 290. You've got the tunnel now that's protecting you at 341, 350, so 350. So call it 24, 290, 24, 350, and you've got a decision to make. We establish above 350, we come back up to 400. 400 I think will be quite tough. If we bounce now between these two levels here, there's nothing really to do until the market opens properly. Bungees are trying to cross over the 50% mark, which means possible retest of the 400 mark. But again, we need to see what happens at 350. Remember, we are susceptible to tweets and news flashes about any pending outcomes on Middle East negotiations or continuations. So those are the markets. I'm now going to try and post this so that you've got it for your opening. I will be there at the open, and so I'm going to